First off, I just want to thank everybody for being inviting this morning, and Bill specifically for inviting me to this event. It's an honor to be able to come and speak. Today I'm going to be speaking a little bit about the Lakelands Counts platform that Bill had just mentioned, the Greenwood Counts Community Consortium, and then another collective group I'm a part of called the Greenwood Abbeville Coalition. But to start off, we're going to focus a little bit on the Lakelands Counts and the Greenwood Counts Community Consortium. But just by a show of hands, how many people in here believe that data is important? How many people in here believe data can give a good reflection of the community that you're in? How many people also believe that that data can help drive what area of focus or what exactly you do in that community? Right? It's not everything. There's a lot of other factors that play a role in it as well, but data is extremely important. So we have started at United Way something called the Lakelands Counts data platform. This was originally the Greenwood Counts data platform, but we wanted to be able to expand it to McCormick. I saw we had some McCormick in the house, to Saluda, Abbeville and Greenwood. We wanted all these communities to be able to have access to data, whether it's for their organizations, whether it's for community initiatives that they're a part of, that can help drive the decisions that they're doing in their communities. So the Lakelands Counts data platform, it's simply just a very innovative data platform that gives you a lot of information as well as data, such as you have your community resources on there. We have some evidence-based practices, but you can go on it and it's easy to use for anybody. You can go to it, there's a search bar when you first get on the site. You can type in any piece of data. If you just want to find something out about poverty, you can type in poverty and it'll bring up every piece of data that we have related to poverty. And you can also now look at it for each county and compare McCormick to Abbeville, Abbeville to Greenwood, Greenwood to Saluda. And so it's 228 local data indicators on one platform. This is the most recently available. So we all know that sometimes data can take a little bit of time to get through, but this data platform is wired on the back end so that as soon as the data updates, everyone that comes to our platform can be able to access that same data. It allows you to see data trends, which lets you see, are we getting better or are we getting worse? From 2017 to 2021, has poverty gotten better? Has obesity rates gotten worse? And it allows you to see that on really easy to understand charts. It also shows you some of our national objectives. So there's national outcome measures. And this gives us a benchmark. This gives us something to work towards so that we know where do we stand according to these national outcomes. If something's rating, like for children living below poverty, if we're at 35.7%, but the national outcome measure says we shouldn't be any higher than, let's say, 10%. Don't quote me on that because I don't have it with me, but just an example, that would show that we're at extremely high rate for that children living below poverty. So that would give us an actual benchmark, something to work towards, and we need to get that 35.7% down to 10. And it also has a lot of other things. It gives you access to funding opportunities for churches, for local organizations, for people who are doing community work. It also gives you evidence-based practices. A lot of times in different communities, we have great ideas, we can come up with great things, but we don't always have to recreate the wheel. So you can go to evidence-based practices and see things that people have done across the country to work towards something specific that's already shown that it has great success. So we can actually go on this site, find those practices, and use that in the things that we're doing. This is just an example. So one of the pretty easy to understand charts that it shows are called these index cards. So right here you can see children living below poverty, and this is actually off the site. This is for Greenwood County specifically. It's 35.6% of children in Greenwood County are living below the federal poverty line. So that's an extremely alarming rate. Even compared to the SC value, we're a lot higher. The South Carolina value is 21.2%. And then you can see according to the US value, it's even worse at 17.5%. And we can see that our prior value was 35.9, which isn't much of a difference, but it's still showing that we're trending at a pretty high rate for children living below poverty in Greenwood County. But we all know that data's only so good unless we actually do something behind it. Do y'all agree with that? So what we decided was we needed to bring the community together to start focusing on what are these things that we're seeing that are extremely alarming off this data platform, and what can we do about it. And this is how the Greenwood Counts Community Consortium started. We're also known as GC3. And what we like to do is, just to keep it real simple, is get a lot of community stakeholders and activists, community members, leaders of local organizations, get them into one room based off a collective impact model, and start focusing on what are these areas that need to change and what exactly can we do to change them. As part of our purpose, as long as there remain obstacles for any individual in our community to achieve their potential, there is still collective action to be taken. And how many in here agree that there is still work to be done here in Greenwood? Y'all can agree with that? Absolutely. Our mission is to combine this credible data that we can use as a mirror, a reflection of our community, combine it with collective will for action to improve the quality of life for all in our community. We do this by gathering in rooms, doing some strategic planning, and then actually coming up with some strategic plans to carry out within the community that we can go ahead and start focusing on. Just as an update, we have decided what our 3 focus areas are gonna be. Bill Kimler is actually on our steering committee for the Greenwood Counts Community Consortium, and this was a process of getting the community together, finding out what it is that we need to focus on, using the data, using our rooms that we have these discussions at, but also bringing the information to the community. So we went to the Boys and Girls Club, we went to 96, we went to Ware Shoals, and we also hosted one here in the city of Greenwood at the Piedmont Tech Community College. We hosted these things called data walks. And what we did was we brought all this different data into one room. We brought it down to just some key highlight points, and we presented to community members a lot of this information in 1 2-hour gathering, which it's a lot to take in, but it's enough to be able to see, okay, what really stood out to me. So at the end of the event, we didn't just make this decision as a consortium and some people who have a lot of motivation to do good things in this community. We brought it to the community and said, hey, what do you guys want us to do? So they went around, they got to learn all this information, and then at the end, they decided on their top 3 focus areas for the Greenwood Counts Community Consortium. And this kind of just goes into our health equity approaches. We want to make sure that the community is helping drive our decisions on what we decide to work on. And our outcomes ended up being mental health, health equity, and food insecurity. So stay tuned. Those are some highlight areas that we're going to be focusing on. This membership for this consortium is opening to the public, so we can get you guys information. I can make sure Bill gets you guys some information so that if you want to be a part of a specific group, like, hey, mental health is something I'm really passionate about, or health equity, that's something I really want to be a part of. Everyone here and in the community will have an opportunity to be a part of that. But just so you guys have an idea of how this structure works. So United Way is just the backbone organization. We just help organize, facilitate some of these meetings, and keep all the work together. The steering committee is kind of like the mothership of this thing. They help drive the decisions. They help make sure that all the work we're doing stays in line with our mission, stays in line with our vision, and follows some of the governances that we put into place. So you can see, let's just start here at community members. Community members are the foundation of the Greenwood Counts Community Consortium. You can see this model has different color dots and tabs and groups, but let's just look at the green one. Let's say that those green dots that are down at the bottom are a community member who's really passionate or been affected by food insecurity. They would then partner with an organization like the food bank or the soup kitchen, or community leaders who have a lot of day-to-day action within the food arena. Those community members who've been impacted with the community partners who have a lot of say within that area of focus would then form together and make this thing called a working group. That is the model that we found will work best for allowing these works to move forward, so it's not just somebody who does it every day, but it's also the people who are directly impacted are coming together to find solutions. And this is just part of our equity statement. We believe that we need to build an equitable culture of wellness for everyone in our community to achieve their fullest potential. We commit to this by embracing the values of humanity, fairness, and respect through inclusivity, cultivating trusting and collaborative relationships with diverse partners, sharing the power of strengths and resources, inspiring well-being throughout Greenwood County, and advocating for equitable policy and systems changes. I'm going to pull all of these up, but these are some of our great steering committee members that are already a part of the Greenwood Counts Community Consortium. And you might recognize some of these names, but these are a mix of people who represent all different sectors across our community. And we found out that we need people, not just from one part of the community or representing one type of organization. We need some people from all over to come together, because we might not know how food insecurity or mental health is affecting industry at the same time as it's affecting the school district, at the same time it's affecting our healthcare systems. So we need to make sure that everybody's in the room at the same time as we make these decisions. Now, I know that was a lot kind of in one go. So just to kind of sum all that up, we have a Lakelands Counts data platform that helps give us a mirror of the community. We have a community activist group that looks at that platform, and then that helps them drive all their decisions that they do. So this is a whole separate thing, and I try to keep them separated because people hear GAC and they hear GC3, and sometimes I talk to people in the community and they're like, you're part of one of those G things, right? Like, what is it? And it's two different collective groups that I'm a part of. The Greenwood Abbeville Coalition is a separate collective group than everything I just shared with you. This group is focused specifically on substance misuse within our community. Our vision is actually a drug-free community, and everything we do within that group is giving resources, advocating, and education to try to limit the substance use and misuse within the Greenwood Abbeville counties, right? So I got to be a part of this group a while back because I personally am a person who's living in long-term recovery from a substance use disorder. So this was me who came into this community, and I was driven in wanting to be a part of something that I was directly impacted by. And I saw that there were some people in this community that they were like, hey, do something about this. I want to create some change in this arena. And they invited me. And I started seeing that there was a lot of community leaders and people in the room, but there wasn't enough people in that group that were directly impacted. And we all know that a lot of times people closest to the pain are closest to the solution. And we find that in our own lives. So I got to be invited into this group called the Greenwood Abbeville Coalition. They did great works. We started hosting these community events. We created an opioid response plan to where when opioid overdose numbers got too high, everybody a part of our coalition gets an email, and they start implementing an opioid response plan based on where their organization's location is at, whether they're in healthcare, and how they're going to carry that out. So then COVID came, and we all know that COVID affected a lot of people, right? Can we agree that COVID had a big impact? Well, it had a really big impact on the recovery community, because these were people who relied on the church. These were people who relied on their local support groups, and they needed community to be able to continue their walk in recovery. We all know that isolation can be a bad thing, and so that was specifically bad for this community. So we gathered at one of our monthly meetings. It's the second Thursday of each month, if anybody wants to be a part of it. We meet over at St. Mark's Methodist Church. But we knew we needed to do something, because even though this was the circumstances that we were living in, we couldn't just forget about people, and we couldn't shut the doors on everything. So we said, hey, we're going to follow every policy. We're going to find some of the biggest open spaces in the community. We'll even meet outdoors. And we started this thing called Faith to Faith Fridays. So this is just getting to where I'm, to this group for our members in recovery in this community. So we started this thing called Faith to Faith Friday because people were starting to relapse at a high rate. People that I knew personally were starting to relapse at a high rate because they didn't have this community anymore. So churches came together. They let us use spaces like this. They let us use their parking lots. And we started having 50, 60, 70, sometimes up to 100 people in recovery with their families, with their children and their brothers and their sisters and their parents, coming to one place to be able to meet so that they could feel supported and get the resources still that they needed, get the community that they needed, and they could carry on with support for their recovery. But one thing that we realized as we continued these things, we ended up changing the name to Gratitude Gathering, but we saw that there was this disconnect. There was this disconnect of, hey, if people are in recovery, they're those people, right? Like they're in recovery, like they're separated. And then there was the community members. But there was a disconnect in bringing them together. So we started strategizing on this gathering, and we changed it to Gratitude Gathering because putting the word faith in it, even though a lot of the people are rooted in faith that started this thing, it was deterring some of the people from coming because they thought they were just going to another church service. So what we did was we changed it to Gratitude Gathering. We made it interactive where the people were doing workshops. It was friendly it was family friendly, so people could come, bring their kids. They could do activities on mental health. They could do activities on physical health. They could do activities on spiritual health. And this would be their supportive platform. And so what ended up evolving from it was we now have families and individuals living in recovery coming together with the community, right? Because there was a disconnect. Recovery always had to go to those AA rooms and, those certain spaces within the church. But now we're bringing everybody together so that the community can properly support those who have struggled with the substance use disorder. And it just exploded. It became this great platform, and now we meet every third Saturday of the month at 12 p.m. at Real Life Ministries. And it's been this great platform that I'm blessed to be able to be a part of. And we continue to have these events. But I wanted to bring that to you guys as well, just so you're aware of some of the work that's going on in this field, in this area, within our community. And if you know anybody who's impacted, if any of you have a passion yourself and you want to be a part of something like that, we would love to have you join. And if you guys have questions, I'll be around a little bit and you can ask me more about it.
All right. Hey, thank you, Justo. Appreciate it. It has always been my delight to bring people from the community, treasures like Justo. How many of you are seeing Justo for the first time? Right. This is a guy we need to get to know. Right? As you can see, he is involved. He is knee deep. He is working with people. He's not working above or organizing. He's embedded himself into this community, and he's certainly an example for all of us. Does anybody have questions for Justo?
Couple questions.
I can hear you.
Couple questions I had was, you said the 35% with the poverty level with children. When you start factoring adults, especially elderly, how much does that raise?
So when you start, so you're just so I got your question right. When you have adults that are living below poverty and then you have children, it's going to be individual to the household. Because then there's another data piece that's families living in poverty. So the children could actually be more if there's more children because you think if there's a single parent but there's 3 children there, you now have 3 kids living below poverty compared to the one adult who's in that situation. Does that kind of clarify that?
And is there any help for the south end of town? Because as I have taken her to the hospital or gone over to the food bank, I'm seeing property after property being boarded up.
Yeah.
And it's pretty bad over here because I've got students over here.
Yeah.
As well as I had employees when I owned the Sears store. It's terrible.
Yeah, so this kind of dives a little bit deeper, but we actually focused on a census tract. And the census tract is 970500. This is within that census tract, all the way up to the corner of United Way, all the way down a little bit past Uptown, back to Reynolds, over. It's the area that most people already kind of know it would be of the highest need. And within that area, there's actually 70% of the individuals are living below the poverty line. So I showed you Greenwood County. Within this area that we're in, it's much higher. And that has been our area of focus because what we did was it's only 1.5 miles, and it gives us a focus for, okay, we're not disregarding other parts of the community, but our focus right now is within the area that's of highest need. So we have all the data. We can present that to just about anybody that's doing work, that's trying to do work within this community, to be able to display that so they know, hey, this is where we really need to bring our attention to.
Do you have another question?
Did I understand you're working with United West?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, he's an employee of United Way. Yeah.
I left that part out. That's the other thing I do.
And what are we doing about making sure the public knows these facts?
What was that, ma'am?
The public doesn't seem to be aware that there are real people in substantial distress.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot of things in different parts of the community that are starting to get out there and kind of try to make the community more aware. And that's part of what we do. And right now we're just a small steering committee, but we are now opening up this membership to be able to bring as many people on board to go out and share with the public.
You have a question here?
Yep.
And then is the data for Greenwood, it's on just the Lakelands website, they're all,
Yeah. So it's just lakelandscounts.org. Yep.
Final question to Senator Knapp.
Oh, I just want to make a comment. For all of you who don't know Justo, before he went to United Way, he was the director at the Boys and Girls Club. Did an excellent job down there, and when he left, kids were really heartbroken.
Yeah.
So he did such a great job.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Knocked it out of the park. Appreciate it.
Yeah.